Popular Front, the podcast. My name is Ben Udishing. Thank you for listening. It is Father's Day, June 17th, 2018. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers, all them male nurturers, all them breadwinners, and, you know, I'm sure there's a Jordan Peterson fan out there right now talking about how Father's Day has been taken away by the cultural Marxist. And as a member of the culture and at least kind of a Marxist, I'll say I'm not going to take it away. I'm a fan of Father's Day. Ish. Maybe not. A warm June day here in Seattle, where we just had big news that definitely pissed me off, but was big national news as well. We had an employee head tax that I've definitely talked about on this feed before, that was passed about 6 weeks ago. Unanimously passed to impose a tax on businesses that make over $20 million a year, to tax approximately $250 per employee, maybe $270. And honestly, it doesn't really matter, because 6 weeks after that, after the entire city council voting for it, all but two voted for a bill to repeal this tax. The tax money was going to go to fund homeless services, housing, because Seattle, as a lot of these sort of new growing sort of super tech hubs, for lack of a better term, places like the Bay Area, even New York to a degree, but Seattle is very indicative of a certain kind of sort of mass consolidation of labor in sort of a single market, or really consolidating into this market, and it is just uncontrolled, and it's just causing mass disruption, as they love to say, but disruption to people's ability to sleep with a roof over their head, or have a bathroom, or have food to eat. So disruption, yay! So we had that tax passed, and now that tax has been repealed. It's not precisely clear what caused the council members to turn around. You know, there had been a signature gathering petition going around, which had some questionable methods, to say the least. First off, a lot of these organizations that were funding the signature gathering groups are directly from these large companies. And, you know, that, to me, if we're going to be progressive Seattle and rah, you know, fuck Trump, and, you know, we're so woke, and, you know, I think part of that, I thought, was the idea of, like, you know, more sane campaign finance laws, and sort of about the abilities for corporations to affect the political process. Now, maybe it's legal, and maybe it's, you know, it's within the realm of fair play. But when signature gatherers ended up being paid money for like $4 per signature gathered, for a tax on large businesses, who, I don't know if you know this, because they're large businesses, they have a lot of money. They can actually use that against, you know, a political constituency that's attempting to stand up for those who literally have the least in the city. They don't even have a roof. They don't have a home. So, of course, the power of that is going to be able to overpower any sort of counterbalance, either in political messaging or political activism or organizing work. So some are saying that, and as you can hear, I have a bit of a criticism of that general sort of signature gathering policy as a way to sort of build it feels like a wall. It feels like a wall that we can never break through, because the number of signatures you need to put it on the ballot is like 17,000. This is a city of over 700,000 people. You have to keep fighting, because I know I felt really, sad and just kind of, just sucks. Sucks to lose, especially after you thought you had won, and you thought you had won comfortably. This wasn't a close vote in the city council, and it wasn't like the mayor hadn't, put in any effort at all. Like, she was involved in the process of the final bill. It was under a threat of a veto from her for a larger bill that this bill happened. So if either what happened between the time period is public opinion really changed because of the money and the political influence that some of these companies have, especially on local media, or the pressure from some of these large funding groups, came for the sort of your more moderate, more mainstream Seattle politicians who maybe don't have the strong power base that the two council members who voted against it, Teresa Moscata and Shama Sawant, have. Those two council members, their political constituency and the people who help fund them and work for them are, in the case of Moscata, she has really strong, good labor connections. So she's incentivized to stick with what labor wants, and because she knows that those people will stand with her. And with Shama, it's a similar thing of, she has sort of the, socialist alternative and kind of radical activist groups of all stripes that kind of will stand with her and the sort of grassroots model that she's following. Both of those council members really show kind of the models that we can have to actually have like good progressive politics. But all of the other council members, including council members who voted for the larger head tax, or who would have supported the larger head tax of $500 per employee, have gone all the way and gone from supporting a incredibly large comparatively large head tax to voting against getting rid of it. I'm talking specifically about Mr. Mike O'Brien, who I really had he came on my radar. This dude was like attacked for like wanting to expand a bike trail, and he just looks like a regular sort of Seattle Subaru dad. And it's really disappointing, honestly. Like, Mike, what the hell, dude? So that's kind of where we're at right now, The question is, what do we do about it? How do we organize? And what do we ask for? And how do we message this? I'm definitely going to want to go in deeper on this, probably talking to someone who's especially involved in the activism side, and maybe someone a little bit more knowledgeable on the sort of wonky policy side, because this is a really important issue, and it's a really good reminder of the danger of monopoly capitalism in groups like Amazon and Starbucks and a lot of these large companies that have incentives to encourage inequality and the slide towards deeper and deeper oligarchic systems of power. So, because it's Father's Day, I actually called my father this morning before I recorded this, and we talked a little bit about this, just because he was curious. He's a good lib. He's curious, but he also is like he doesn't live here. He doesn't hear the sort of Cairo news and just who are like our like Sinclair Broadcasting owned local media. He doesn't hear those kinds of messages, and he. In some ways, when you're a little bit farther from an issue, it's harder to fall for the bullshit. And he made a really good point that I think is important, actually. And it was really interesting to hear this from someone who's not a socialist and not a leftist. But it was like a really good reminder of like a principle that is actually really helpful, I think, in building sort of center-left coalitions. That the point he made was that, of course, these companies are going to fight against this. Like that's their role. They're profit-focused corporations. They're going to fight against it, whatever. And it's not their role to like do the right thing or to be charitable or to, just like, build a homeless shelter in like little bits, like the whole Mary's Place with Seattle story. I'll post a link to one. It's not up to them because that's not how the game is set up. It's up to the politicians. It's up to government to say, hey, I understand that this is maybe supposedly taking something away from you, but it's for the greater collective good. And if all we're going to do is just let governments be so influenced by the desires and the the self-interested wishes of certain companies, of course they're not going to do anything. It's like, this is what leadership is. These people love to talk about stuff like leadership and courage and, fighting like the horrors of encroaching oligarchic fascism. Like, while we scream, rightfully so, about the horrors of ICE and separating children at the border, like, a lot of these people who are making those arguments and being so frustrated about what's happening in not Washington State, but in Washington, D.C. and the Trump administration. But then when there's an actual chance to actually do something, it won't solve everything, but it could make a dent, and it could help make this city be like a great model. And could really you want to talk about a thing to build a political career off of, Jenny Durkin and the rest of the people who went against the tax after it came out. That's a chance. Show some leadership. And that's the purpose of government. If you're going to be like a liberal in 2018, you got to make the case for the purpose of government. And like how it can help, and not just how it can just kind of codify certain things to be a little bit better, like how you can have a crisis and solve it. But instead, we're choosing not to. And, a lot of this just comes back to just the absurd difference between the amount of political power that a single individual who's a VP at Amazon has versus the single power that an individual who's living in a homeless encampment has. It's preposterous. And it's going to take some time, but we're coming for you. As that guy said, as the anarchist dad said, "What's up, bootlickers? We're coming for you." So you can lick them boots, but we're still coming.
All right, I don't got long. I'm a dad, so I got a kid to take care of. What's up, bootlickers? I haven't seen y'all since the camp out. I got something to say, right? I'm tired of this fucking shit. I'm a father, I'm a veteran, and I'm an anarchist. Those are three people you don't want to piss off, all right? I'm tired of children getting attacked in the streets. I'm tired of them sleeping in the fucking streets. I'm tired of seeing the very people that I swore to defend get attacked by the state. So like I said out there, y'all need to close your fucking beaks and start moving your feet and get shit done. Take resources and put them in the hands of the people who need them. All right? Seriously. The fuck is wrong with y'all? Yeah! Who the fuck are y'all to justify letting people die in the streets with your policies and your laws and your legislation? How do you justify that, killing people? I swore to give my life to defend the people from all forms of oppression. Eventually, this shit's going to stop. Because when our turn, we won't make excuses for the terror. Marx.
This has been an Unpopular Front podcast For more episodes, go to unpopularfront.com to find articles, podcasts, and more.